Who are doing MA in English program. So this could be helpful for both students, those who are doing in online mode as well as ODL mode. So let us talk about today's topic, which is going to be Hamlet. Hamlet is a kind of a play which is written by William Shakespeare. And to begin with, let me tell you that the whole world knows this play by famous soliloquies. If one were to know a soliloquy through which one could know about the play, like To Be or Not to Be, which happens to be a very famous soliloquy. And this soliloquy, I would say, defines the whole play itself. It's a tragedy, Hamlet, to be or not to be. And everybody, even in today's world also, small kid also talks about this, it is well known as a proverb also. There is another phrase, expression which has turned to be a proverb, kind of a proverb today's, and which is, frailty thy name is woman. And that is also another soliloquy which really defines the play Hamlet, which is a tragedy. Let me begin by telling you that William Shakespeare, who happens to be the playwright, the dramatist who wrote this play, is well known as one of the world's best dramatists, world over. And he is well known for almost all the plays, be it comedies or tragedies, in which he wrote. And to this play, which is Hamlet, which is a well-known tragedy also. And let me tell you that when we talk about Hamlet, William Shakespeare, he wrote Hamlet in the early, I would say, 16th century and 17th century. And it happens to be one of the most tragedies, ever written. And the whole world, be it learners or even those interested in literature, they do enjoy reading these plays, even Hamlet also. They enjoy reading it. Maybe because of the universal themes it deals with, or it could be also because of, I would say, maybe you can say the kind of a language, theatrics, which Shakespeare has employed in his plays. Because, there have been a lot of classical dramatists also who have been William Shakespeare's followers. Not only classical followers, but even today's learners also. They find this plays to be very, very interesting, because of the language, because of the universal themes. When I say universal theme, because Shakespeare, he deals with those themes which happen to be universal, applicable to all over the world. So that is why his themes which he has dealt with are considered to be universal in nature. When we talk about Hamlet, let me tell you that in the beginning, when it was written for the first time, and when it was, being performed, there was a kind of, I would say, uncertainty lying over its first performance as to when it was performed. And there was kind of a lot of debate, discussions among the scholars, among the critics, and those who were very much interested in doing research also. And all of them were of the view that it was 1601 or between 1601 and 2 when it was performed for the first time, And this thing has been already discussed in one of your units also. And let me also tell you that it is a kind of a play which has inspired not only learners, but it has also inspired critical speculations, and I would say also comments from scholars, critics, and also a lot of people, those who have been interested in literature, And it has been accepted as one of the most important tragedies than any other play any dramatist in English literature has written, including, I would say, Shakespeare as well. So when we talk about this play is well known for the character himself, character who happens to be Hamlet. And the character who has really inspired the whole world itself because of the way he is, enacting in the play. And it has also inspired even more varied readers, various kinds of readers also. It has also inspired intense reactions coming from not only audience but scholars also, readers also, actors, even directors also. Directors also have been interested in reading this play Hamlet, and so much so that Hamlet has often found to have acquired a life of its own, a life outside the context of the play. The play has become so famous that it has become a cultural icon, not only for the European communities, because it was, written and published in Britain, it has become a cultural icon even for today also, for our times also. And no other text commands very instant recognition of such, such a large number of moments, images, words than Hamlet does, And if you look at the context of the, I would say, the plot itself, it is, based on a kind of a narrative where we see that the main protagonist, the Prince Hamlet of Denmark, he is seeking a kind of revenge on his uncle Claudius, for murdering Hamlet's father, the former king, and marrying Hamlet's mother, Gertrude itself. Let me explain to you as to how it happens, When Hamlet comes back from, after completing studies, he comes back to his place at Denmark, and he comes to know through two guards who are already working as watchmen, okay? They happen to witness a ghost, and that ghost happens to be of his own father's, okay? Whose name was also Hamlet, okay, Hamlet. So he also, earned his name Hamlet, okay, in his father's name, And that ghost of Hamlet, his father's, tells Hamlet that, look, child, if you really love me, then you'll have to take a revenge for my murder. I have not died a natural death, but I have been murdered by none other than your own uncle Claudius. So Claudius happened to be, Hamlet's brother. So when he was in the garden, okay, taking rest in the after completing his works in the morning, being a prince, okay, so he would attend his court and he completed his works. And then in the afternoon he went to the garden. He was taking rest. At that time when he fell asleep, Claudius came by there and he poured poison in his ear. And that is how he died. And later on, Claudius came up with his own narrative, which he propagated among the people, that he died of a snake bite, which was a lie. So Hamlet's father is telling him, my son, if you really love me, then you'll have to take revenge on your father's murder, who has been murdered, you can say. Okay. So, this is what happens, okay, if you look at the plot itself. And then after even his father's death, even within 6 months itself, his mother is marrying Claudius, okay, which is very shocking for him also. So thereby, he loses, his faith in womanhood, womankind itself, and that is how he is making a very famous, soliloquy. He says, frailty, thy name is woman. That means, frailty means womanhood. Woman, you are a weak person. Okay, so it has been universalized, so it has been generalized, but that is not how it should be taken into consideration, So, he is taking it. So basically what I mean to say is that this is a tragedy which has been also considered to be a revenge play. Because here the son is trying to take revenge for his father's murder, And this play is also well known for, as I told you, the main protagonist Hamlet. If you look at the protagonist Hamlet himself, the Hamlet, the first thing about this character is that he is a very enigmatic character. Enigmatic means very difficult to understand as to what kind of character he is. And there is always, more to him than the other characters, okay, in the play can figure out. And even it happens that even the most careful, clever readers come away with the sense that they don't know everything there is to know about this character, So whenever he is trying to speak out, he sounds as if there is something important he is trying to say, but he is not able to convey that message. And he is a university student. Okay, he has been studying in University of Wittenberg. Okay, whose studies are interrupted by his father's death, and he comes back to Denmark. And he is, let me tell you, he's a very, very philosophical person, very contemplative, and at times he's also drawn to difficulties, okay, and he's also drawn to difficult questions, also questions which cannot be answered with certainty. And he at times behave, in a very impulsive manner, very rashly also. And when he acts in a very swiftly, okay, acts very swiftly, in a swift manner. And it is with surprising swiftness and little or no premeditation, as his swiftness of action can be seen even when he stabs Polonius, one of the advisors of the king. Polonius, who is a very senior person, who was advisor to King Claudius, okay, who took over charge from after the death of Hamlet, So he kills Polonius, swiftly without knowing, because he was hiding behind the curtain when he was having a conversation with his mother, Gertrude. He heard a voice, and then he assumed as if, Claudius himself was hiding behind the curtain. So he took out his, weapon, and he killed Polonius. So which really displays about his character, what kind of character he was possessing. So he at times behaved very rashly, I would say very impulsively also, and he steps very easily into, into the role of madman also, okay. Because another example is that, at times he behaves very erratically, upsetting other characters with his wild speech, pointed innuendos also. At times he becomes very, very obsessed with providing his uncle's guilt before trying to act, And he is equally plagued with questions about the afterlife, because since he is a philosophical person. He is a university graduate. So he is having, influence of philosophy in his life also. So most of the times, he will be talking about afterlife, as to what would happen beyond this life, metaphysical, we talk about metaphysics, okay. So he at times talks about the otherworldliness, as to what would happen after the death, so afterlife. He's so much concerned about that, because, and he also talks about as to what happens, after they die. So he is philosophical, very speculative also. He is at times lost in his own world also, okay. And one of the other characteristics about this character is that he is extremely melancholy and disconnected with the state of affairs in Denmark. He is not so much aware of what has been happening in Denmark, For example, a Norwegian king is trying to, pose a war. You can wage a war against Denmark, but he is unaware of that. So he is not so much aware about political affairs which are going on in his life, And he is extremely disappointed with his own mother when he gets to know that after the death of his father, even within the 6 months, within the 6 months of his father's death, his mother marries, his uncle Claudius, So he is very much shocked, and that's how he loses faith in womankind, He is also at times, behaving very, in a repulsive manner with his own girlfriend, Ophelia. He loved Ophelia, but at times it so happens that, because of his nature is, displayed through his actions. He repudiates at times Ophelia, and who he claims to love, And his words also indicates his disgust with and distrust of women in general, okay. So this is about, Hamlet, okay. Why I was talking about, Hamlet, is that, this play is well known for this character Hamlet. So many people, many scholars, when they try to study tragedy of, Hamlet, they do try to explore the character of Hamlet. Now, apart from Hamlet, there are other major characters also. For example, Claudius, who is his own uncle, his father's brother, who has taken over the charge, the throne itself, And then we have Gertrude. Gertrude is his own mother, Hamlet's mother. Ophelia, the girl who he loves the most, the Laertes, Ophelia's brother, okay, Laertes, okay, who have Laertes and Ophelia both are the children of Polonius. Okay, Polonius, who happens to be advisor to the king. He's advisor to the king, who has been helping Claudius to take revenge also. Okay, then Horatio is the person who happens to be a very good friend of Hamlet's. Both of them have studied from the same place. They are very good friends. And then we have Fortinbras. Fortinbras is a Norwegian king. Okay, who at the end comes back. Okay. To attack on Denmark, to take revenge of his father's death also, because his father was also, murdered, you can say, as he's assuming, okay, by Hamlet. So he's also coming to take revenge on that, okay. So these are major characters. But these are not so important. Now, let me also talk briefly about what are the other themes that the play deals with, The play explores themes of revenge, corruption, moral decay, okay, throughout Hamlet's struggle to avenge his father's death, and it remains one of the Shakespeare's most studied and performed works due to its exploration of human psychology. So there are many, many themes which the play deals with, But let me give you kind of a recapitulation of what has happened in the previous lectures, okay. This block itself, okay, which deals with the Hamlet, play Hamlet, okay, has got 6 units. So in the first 4 units, okay, if you have gone through the blocks, you will understand that we have tried to have a look at, Hamlet with a close focused eye. Close focused eye means we have dealt with some of the internal, you can say, perspectives, and we began Unit 1 with appreciation of the problems of identifying the text of Hamlet. The date of the first performance of Hamlet has also been discussed at length in Unit 1. We have also discussed the sources that Shakespeare drew upon the play itself to construct Hamlet's story. There have been various versions of the text also, which was also discussed. Okay, we have also dealt with some of the scholarship, methodology, textual criticisms, such as historical criticism, new criticism, etc. Okay, and then Unit 2, we have also talked about the play in the light of Elizabethan revenge tradition. Okay, which was considered to be a kind of a perspective which really brought together, to have a very closer look at Hamlet as the Elizabethan audience themselves, okay, might have understood and enjoyed the play. And then we have also in the previous Unit 2 looked at Hamlet as a revenge play. Just now I talked about Hamlet, how it can be considered as a revenge play, okay. And then Unit 3 talks about, the language of Shakespeare, theatrics, style. Unit 4 focuses on the soliloquies, which have already been discussed, subjectivity, some philosophical. Now, having looked at Hamlet at such close quarters, okay, so these are the various perspectives which we have looked at, okay, in the Hamlet, Now, it's time we need to withdraw ourselves from all these perspectives and have a look at a very, Hamlet from a very wider perspective or in a larger context, okay. And let me repeat that Hamlet has emerged as a cultural icon in the 20th century. It has emerged as a cultural icon not only in the Western world but also elsewhere in the world. So we need to look at it, okay, as to how it has happened. So when we look at Hamlet from modern perspectives, let me now come to the topic. When we talk of modern perspectives, we need to look at how the play has been, construed, or you can say understood or read all over the world, and what have been the reactions of the readers, reactions of the scholars, critics about the Hamlet. So we are going beyond these, I would say close perspectives, okay, and having a wider look at the play. So when we try to understand from a modern perspective, the first thing which emerges is, we look at a kind of a new perspective which has emerged, where we have seen that Hamlet has been compared with King Lear, King Lear. And there is a scholar critic, whose name is R.A. Fox, okay, who did a research work in 1993, okay, and whose title was Hamlet versus King Lear. And he demonstrates how an unprecedented shift took place in the canonical status of Hamlet between 1955 and 1965. And thereafter, he made a comparison, okay. So this comparison was made, so this is a kind of a new perspective which has emerged. It can be construed as a modern perspective, where we have seen, Hamlet being compared with other plays, okay, other tragedies. So King Lear was compared. So between 1955 and 1965, Hamlet was considered to be one of the important tragedies, And then later on, King Lear also got that position, you can say. So we see a comparative perspective emerging when we look at Hamlet from modern perspective, that is number one. Number two is that we also observe there has been a new kind of research orientation which has emerged into literature, and particularly amongst the scholars who have been doing research in the field of, say, the plays, okay, Shakespeare's plays, and they have tried to reinvent Hamlet. So another perspective which has emerged is very much related with reinventing Hamlet. I would call it reinventing Hamlet. So there is a critic whose name is Michael Cohen, okay, and he wrote a book, okay, on reading Hamlet for the first time, okay, which was published in college literature, okay, in 1992. So what he does is that Michael Cohen is considering the desirability and difficulty of approaching Hamlet without preconception, okay, without a kind of a pre-reading. And he is wondering whether it is possible to find even a single reader who does not come to the play with foreknowledge of details of the play. Okay, so he is having kind of a, his understanding, okay. So he is of the view, Cohen, that when a reader is coming to witness or to see or watch play, he has already read the play. That is understood, you can say, okay. And there have been also attempts to to look at Hamlet, okay, from a different angle, you can say. And the question of reading Hamlet for the first time has been looked at from a historical perspective. It has also been looked at as a historical problem. And there are a great many believers, okay, who have also had the same kind of a view, okay, just like Cohen. And Cohen refers to like G.B. Harrison, Thomas Kettle, Carl Werder, S.C. Bradley, okay, Jim Knights, and among others, these people who have been, okay, his followers. That is another perspective. Now, let us look at another perspective which I think is very, very important, okay, when we look at Hamlet from modern perspectives. So we have looked at how Hamlet has been compared with King Lear. We also looked at reinventing Hamlet, how Hamlet was reinventing by different, critics, scholars, Now, there is another perspective which is very, very important, and which is privatization of Hamlet. Hamlet, the play, also has been appropriated, okay, and privatized. So there have been several scholars who have looked at Hamlet from their own perspectives, and they have appropriated Hamlet, and they have given their own perspective. They have looked at Hamlet from their own perspective. And one of them happens to be Baudelaire's Shakespeare. This is one perspective, Baudelaire's. So there was a critic, Thomas Baudelaire, okay, who prepared a 4-volume edition of the works of Shakespeare in 1807, okay, and later on he expanded to 10 volumes, okay, in which his objective was to offer the readers an edition in which nothing is added to the original, but those word expressions are omitted, which cannot be propriety, we read in a family. Now, let me tell you that one of the important thing about this Baudelaire's Shakespeare is that it is also known as the family Shakespeare. The reason being that, the Baudelaire's Shakespeare was widely read throughout the 19th century, and it earned high praise from many poets, such as even Swinburne, who remarked that no man ever did better service to Shakespeare than the man who made it possible to put him into the hands of intelligent, imaginative children. So he made it to be a very, very family thing. Hamlet was considered to be part of a family. There is another perspective, Macrovich Hamlet. Okay, so another we have a critic whose name was Charles Macrovich. Okay, what he did was he assembled many versions of Hamlet. Okay, and he brought a kind of a new collage of Hamlet. Okay, he reassembled all this and he published with the title, a collage version of Shakespeare's Hamlet. There is another version of it, the Haunted House Hamlet. So this is kind of a perspective which came into existence in Canada, I would say, and Tamhouse Theatre of Vancouver came up with this perspective. They came up with a kind of a perspective that we should have 3 stories for performance of the play. So they came up with a 3-story house, okay, where this play was performed. So it was known as the Haunted House Hamlet. So it became very famous in Canada. Okay, and similarly in Russia also, in France also, Hamlet was performed in 1745 for the first time. In Russia, 1748. In America, 1759. Okay, and then similarly, Indian company was also at that time, advised to make a performance of the play, which it did also in London in 1877. Okay, now there is another modern perspective which is emerging, which is related to universalization. When you talk about universalization, Hamlet speaks a language which is universal. I told you right in the beginning that it talks about universal themes which are applicable to almost all the worlds. He is dealing with the themes which have been applicable for all the ages also. Not only they are applicable not only for one particular country, but for all the countries all over the world. They are dealing with the themes which have been applicable for almost all the ages, not for the only 16th century, but all the ages also. Okay, and we have seen some reactions coming from other people. It's not that almost all the readers, Black American response to Shakespeare is a racial response. A Black American student regards Shakespeare as a white man's cultural baggage. Okay, so there has been a reaction. Okay, in Japan, it is considered as one of the important, I would say, literature, because in Japan also they have come up with so many, I would say, so many theaters, okay, where they have been performing. Okay. Now coming to just in Indian context, let me tell you that India has also accepted Hamlet, okay, in a well manner, and we have Parsi theatre. The development of Parsi theatre in the mid-19th century led to the interest in Shakespearean study. So we are having Parsi theatre. Later on, we are also having some Urdu translation of, translation of Hamlet being done by Munshi Mehdi Hassan with a new title, Khune Na Haq, okay, which was performed in 1898 by Parsi Alfred Company. Then we are also having his other plays also being translated, okay, being performed in India. There is another translation by Sohrab Modi. Hamlet has been translated into Khoon Ka Khoon. This is how it was, well accepted by not only, I would say, Western society, but all over the world. We look at the reaction of Western countries also, okay. We have UK, America, Africa, South Africa also, with Japan, okay, you can look at India also. So this play, I would say, Hamlet has been considered to be one of the important plays dealing with some of the universal themes which have been applicable and which have been well accepted by almost all the scholars, critics of the world. And I think it's useful to examine as to how all these various kinds of readers have responded to the reaction, okay, which they have come up with regarding Hamlet, I think. So we have today looked at different modern perspectives, we can say. We have looked at comparative perspective. We looked at how it was reinvented, okay, as a new form. We have looked at also how other people's readers' reaction was towards these, you can say. So these are the modern perspectives through which we need to look at Hamlet. So I hope that today's lecture has helped you, and I advise you all to please go through the blocks so that it may be easy for you to understand the text very well. So that